was scheduled for 6:30, so we're gonna start. We're already a minute late. Okay, Crystal, the show is yours for the Department of Development.
Okay. So I did ask Zach, he passed out, Brent had sent an email this afternoon requesting a budget breakdown for Jura. So that has been passed out to you along with the salary schedule, which I had shared in our via email, but I printed a copy of that for you as well, just so you have it in front of you. As far as budget goes, we are requesting $420,000. That is an increase from last year. Last year's budget was $415,000. And then I don't know if you want to go through budget items or if you have specific questions about the Jura budget. This is a draft, of course, because it is based on whether or not what dollar amount is approved. That we'll have to adjust our Jura budget, our final Jura budget after this.
Crystal, you requested $450,000. Can you tell us where that was cut from in your budget?
Where it was cut from?
Yeah, the 30,000 that you wanted, more that you wanted.
Well, so, yeah, well, from ARPA funds, but it's really a matter of, we adjusted, so with CDBG and home income, most of those dollar amounts are based on work that is done. So it's project completion driven, what we are able to get from our CDBG and home programs. So we had to adjust that, and it's really gonna be based on how much actual project work we can complete and then submit back to HUD for it's not really reimbursement, it's project administration, because there's project,
Program delivery.
there's program delivery, thank you, that's the word I'm looking for, program delivery, and then there's project administration. I don't know if I made that any clearer.
So you increased one of the other revenue sources?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
So on the salary, just to note, for clarification, the bottom ones are all ARPA funded?
Correct.
Partially.
Partially, yes.
And then obviously the grants coordinator is,
Right, she comes out of our admin as well as the associate corporation counsel. So they are not accounted for in wages, they are administrative.
and GCC pays a portion, so everyone's clear on that. One thing I would like to see, and I know this is kind of under you, not under you, but I would like to see a summary of all the grants, again, an update for that before the voting session. Of what we've got going on, what's open, what's been approved, what's.
Sure.
I
And
know
you
we
do,
got one a couple months ago, but I would like to see an updated one from her.
yep. And then as far as grants that we have, that we do receive any sort of admin from, those are accounted for in the income portion of this budget.
Can you provide, a side-by-side of 2022 and 2023? I think that would help people also.
Sure.
Or even two separate files, whatever, but it'd be nicer if it was a side-by-side. Crystal also included an updated project list. Crystal, this is pretty large, and I know some of these things have been completed, or I guess, to me, what this looks like is a huge list that there's no way your department could do it. I don't care if you had 50 people. So I guess my concern is, like, there's some things, like, I know one particular thing I looked at, I knew that has kind of been completed, and things that you're kind of, I know, knee deep in versus toe deep.
Absolutely, yeah.
You know, the skate park's pretty much done. That was one thing I noted, and
Mhm.
just a couple other things. I guess it would be, I mean, I guess I kind of would like to see your big projects, right? I mean, I know your ARPA things, but,
Mhm.
I mean, people always will ask, at least me, like, what are you doing with money, right? It'd be nice to kind of have a little bit more from our standpoint.
So I do have, and I just was not able to prepare that for this meeting, but my end of the year, I guess, project summary or, you know, kind of summary of accomplishments does have that in a lot more detail. It's not complete,
Right.
because I just haven't had time to complete it, but it has essentially exactly that. So whatever the project is, and then a description of what that project is and sort of status report. It just was not something that I had time to prepare in that timeframe. And, you know, some of these projects you'll also see, it may fit into economic development category, and it may also fit into community development category.
Mhm.
So you may see there's duplication in different categories. Some of the housing initiatives also cross over into other things. You know, this is just sort of our ongoing list. And like you said, everything is really in different stages of progress. If there's anything that you would like me to speak to as to, you know, where are we on that, I'd be happy to do that.
Employee-wise, I know you moved one person now full-time over to basically grant, or ARPA stuff, is that correct? As far as the day-to-day, the rehab code enforcement specialist, one person?
Oh, yes, there's one person she is primarily focusing on getting the roof program. We were knee-deep in that when we hired the grant manager, and we still have another position to fill. So until then, we still have to get that program going. So yes, she is, working with the contractors and trying to get as many of those roofs done before, well, winter's here.
And the replacement is for retirement? The new one?
At the bottom?
Yeah.
For a target area,
Yeah.
that is, it's not a retirement, no, it would be an additional person. Which is, desperately needed, and we have, actually, if you look at the budget sheet, the HHP that's listed at the top under income, that's, Healthy Home Production Grant. So
Mhm.
as part of that grant, there is an anticipation that we will have someone assigned to be able to do, to implement that for the county. So there is some admin that we have accounted for as part of adding another position.
The consultant line is the assistant? Is a grant, right?
No, that consultant line is a line that we've had, for the past few years. We utilize consultants for, it could be architectural drawings, it could be we need a structural engineer for something. Sometimes we hit it, sometimes we don't, but it's definitely something that we have needed.
Oh, I see the grant writer.
Yeah.
Surveyors, all of that, or are
Mhm.
they professional services?
No, survey would fall under consulting. Professional services are legal, that would be outside of what our corporation counsel or associate corporation counsel does, and as well as our audit.
Do your people use a fleet of vehicles, these sidecar, or is it,
Mhm.
you have, they each have their own car, these outside guys, or?
Code
how
en-
that work?
Code enforcement has vehicles, yes, and our building and zoning code inspector.
Wages, expenses include all wages and all benefits, I'm assuming?
You'll see wages, expenses,
Yep.
and then above that,
Mm-hmm.
right above consultant is benefits.
Okay.
Your employees get paid,
Yes.
so that's built into the salary.
Mhm. I think is longevity built in under benefits or?
It's under wages.
It's under wages, okay.
It's taxable.
Does anybody have any other questions? Okay. Going once, going twice, sold.
You know how to find me, happy to answer any questions.
I may have a few more, because to be honest with you, I didn't come to the meeting to really review everything you sent, so.
Okay.
No, I was reading it. I'm not playing on my phone. You can just.
Oh, yeah.
You're busy.
Alright, I'm gonna go print that stuff here.
Okay. Fenton?
New director and board member. Then they can get on the microphone.
It's gonna be page one.
Yep. Okay, I'll let you two introduce yourself and welcome for coming to explain city's portion to your minuscule portion, I guess I should say, to your budget for the Historical Society.
Thank you. I'm Jane Babinski, I'm the executive director.
My name is Ange Semo, and I'm the treasurer.
I don't know if you had any documents prepared to discuss what, overall, I think most of us have heard this before, but we do have some new council members who, obviously, the Historical Society is partially a responsibility of the city of Jamestown, because it's a city of Jamestown owned building. Therefore, the expenses that are in your budget book pay for what is the utility cost and maintenance cost there, are appropriated towards that. As was mentioned, it was a $1,000 increase for the year, but you also know that it's an old building, and as we voted on last week for an emergency repair on the roof, there's things that need to be addressed there every year, so. I'm gonna let you talk a little bit about the Fenton, but I just wanted to give everybody an overview that this $26,900 in the executive portion only pays the utilities essentially.
bit to note is that that is a city park,
Yeah.
that is considered a city park.
Yeah,
correct.
Parks committee said yes, it's part of the
Just that
property,
building, but-
not the building, but the property around, not the hall house, but everything else except.
So the floor is yours.
Okay, first off, I'd like to say we really appreciate the support of the city. We have not had an increase, from the city since 2003. And this is why I requested, an increase from 16,000 to 17,000, for the year 2023. And of course, I am a real stickler for, using the money appropriately. It will only be used for the maintenance of the building. I can tell you right off the bat, our boiler's been out again. So that's gonna be probably $1,000 there that we're gonna be paying out of our pocket. Bad news on the roof, it was repaired, and now it's leaking worse from a different spot. So city workers were there today addressing it, doing a temporary fix, so we'll have to see how that goes. It's just been one of those weeks. We also appreciate that, you repaired our plumbing. Finally, after 2 years, we now have working toilets and no leaks in the basement from them. So that's very appreciative too. Do you have anything to say as treasurer?
Well, we have a great board. We have 4 new board members this year. And we're trying to reestablish our budget. And in the past, our former director did the budget. Now it's a group effort. We're trying to get things back in line. And we have some really great people that are working together this year.
Because you're new, in the past, every former director has always like submitted some things that you guys do, how many kids you've had through. It's not relevant to you getting this money, but it would be kind of nice to see that summary of what goes on there. If you happen to need it, like a last copy, I'm sure the clerk can provide one if you don't have it. But just something so that we can see the programs, the activity. Is kind of nice to share with the public of what actually goes through.
I could probably send you the same report that I just sent to Chautauqua County.
That would be fine.
Because it has all the information in it.
That would be fine. I just think it helps people, especially the newer council members, to see really, it's not just a building that sits there. It provides a lot of education both locally and for people doing research on their history and genealogy and all that stuff. The asset that the Fenton is. I know when I grew up on Prospect Street, I used to go down there all the time and sit on the top and look out over the city. It's one of my favorite things to do, but I think it would help to people to see the kind of initiatives and programs that are running through there.
Yeah, absolutely. I will get that to you. And just wanted to say that the Historical Society, we're celebrating our 60th year in 2023. So that's why we're trying to get repairs done and spruce up the building. And a lot of things have been let go, not on the city's part, but on the Historical Society's part, I think, because they were focusing on so many other things. So this is the year to really work on things and build our programs up and do more things for the community as well.
You do some great things. So.
When you say things were let go, is that a result of not having the money to do those things?
It was, yes, essentially. It was also just because not having the money at all. We had some really lean years, and I think with the board we have now, we're enthusiastic, and we are going out there, we're seeking funds. We're going to have a big gala next year to bring money in. Our one fundraiser this year, our cemetery tours, earned way more money than we expected, and we had over 600 people in attendance. So, we're just moving forward and,
There've been good years and bad years.
Absolutely, and COVID put a hurt on everything.
well, that's it, and we're trying to, this is our year that we're just starting to recover from that.
In fact, during the COVID years, we were at the point where, this is before James joined us, where we had to take a line of credit just to make payroll. And now that's pretty much, we're trying to pay that off little by little every month. But there were times where our former director didn't even cash a paycheck because we didn't have the money in the account until certain grants came through. So it's been, sometimes there were some iffy times.
Sure.
Yeah, I've been, on the board for about 9 years. So,
Yeah, we're also trying to help the city by really looking at our utilities. I would like to, we've changed some, but I would like to change all of our lighting to LED to save money. Also keeping our electric and, our gas, or our boiler down so that, you don't get outrageous bills, because as we all know, utilities have gone up this year and will be the
Especially
worst
in the
next
whole
year.
building.
Yes, yeah.
Have you looked into any grants for the lighting?
I have not yet. I actually told somebody today that was gonna be one of my next projects.
Sure.
Yeah.
The city got a very large grant throughout our buildings, and the streetlights have all been.
Yes, well, I know when I was at Dunkirk, they're on a different program, but, they replaced all of ours through a grant. So, yeah, I actually talked to Dan Stone about that as well.
Right. The city does have a grant record. You
Oh,
should be able to take it.
okay. That's good news.
I would definitely take advantage of that. Ma'am, you mentioned your boiler. How old is your boiler?
That's the sad thing, it's new.
New.
Yeah, 2018.
So is it still working?
It was one of the parts that they didn't replace. It was one of the safeties, there's 4 safeties on the boiler. They replaced, the boiler is brand new, but some of the parts in the plumbing was not.
You know if it's hot water, cold, steam?
It's hot water. Yeah.
It was on the steam system.
And you had mentioned utilities. I'm sitting here looking at utilities and someone had mentioned the increase in natural gas and electric.
Mhm.
And I see that your budgeting is pretty much the same. We're seeing like 30 to 50% increase in natural gas costs. But yet you have the same dollar amount like in 2022 and not much more in 2021. Is this gonna be enough to pay your utility bills here?
Fingers crossed, we're hoping. That's why we're also being conservative. I know I've been told in years past, that past directors would say, well, the city's paying the bills, so turn the heat up. I'm not like that. I believe that, I'm gracious that you guys are taking care of it, so, I'm not going to be like that. It's going to be set at a temperature that our collections will be fine. And I just told my staff, wear a sweater. Of course, it was a little cold in there today.
I mean, that was my question too. I looked at that and didn't see an increase in your, natural gas, and we know that's going on,
Yeah. Well, it's kind of hard to predict. Obviously, if it's more, then, we'll have to pay some money into that.
I just want to add, we're very fortunate to have Jane come in as the executive director. She's had a lot of great ideas. She's been involved in getting grants, coming up with new ideas, how we can be more efficient. The new office manager that she hired has made a huge difference in terms of keeping track of inventory, the gift shop, trying to make things more appropriate to the area, selling things that are related to the area. So I think that's increased. They've done more presence online. to add to the sales. So they're doing a lot of things right now that maybe having the right people in the right positions has made a big difference. It's not to say that it still isn't going to be difficult, because every time we think, you know, as this council liaison, every time we think we got things under control, you have something like the boiler, the roof leaking, I've seen it.
Yeah.
And it was pretty bad when I was there, and that was before we had the downpour on Friday and all that rain, which has created a whole lot of other issues for everybody. But I can assure you they've been doing everything. Also, she doesn't tell you how many volunteer hours by board members in terms of buildings and grounds maintenance, doing a number of things, taking care of things within the mansion. You know, she's looking for help with painting and cleaning, because once the roof is repaired, there are issues internally in the, you know, on the walls and things that have been damaged that are going to need help. And so she's always looking for the good price for, you know, somebody to do a good job. It's not the cheapest necessarily, but it's the person who can do the job, who will do justice to the mansion that we're, you know, required to want to take care of. And so she's doing everything she can to make sure that the building is maintained, that it doesn't go into disrepair. And it has been neglected. You know, through nobody's fault, it was neglected, and you could see the wear and tear, things that were not put on the walls appropriately, that have left marks, things being taped to walls that should have never been taped, that have damaged the walls. And you're talking about a very old building, and, you know, people were not always very thoughtful in what they did and how they did it. So Jane's a very good steward. We really have been very fortunate that she's been willing to take care of the building and take care of the needs, and has a good group of board members that are really supporting her. So I think things are looking up in spite of the difficulties. I think things are, we're in a very good position to try to turn things around. And we have been successful in getting grants, so hope that continues, and I'm sure she'll pursue every avenue to get assistance with everything that's happening.
Absolutely. Thank you.
I know several years ago there was a question of space. And the reason I asked that is I went on a tour of a building this past weekend down in Pleasant Street, and there's a space in there apparently you're renting for stuff, storage.
Yes.
There's a lot of stuff up there. And I know several years ago there was a lot of questions about the building running out of room for things, so how is that?
Well, it's typical of any museum. A museum is supposed to be 60% for storage and only 40% for exhibit. And even the newest museums that think they build enough storage into their building, 2 years later, they have the same problem. But we do own the Hall House, which is adjacent to the Fenton property, and a lot of our items are stored in there. And I have a plan for the things that are stored off-site, which is pretty pricey, the storage. So I am going to be looking for a grant to waterproof one end of the basement of the Hall House, which will be large enough to bring all those things out of outside storage and be there.
There's a lot of stuff that we don't want to store in the buildings.
In fact, storage in that storage facility, for years, there was an owner who was reasonable. And it wasn't, it was within our budget, our means to pay this. All of a sudden, owners got switched.
New owner, yeah.
And the new owner almost tripled, quadrupled
Oh, yeah.
the amount of money he wanted per year.
Yeah.
And it really put a hole in our budget.
Yeah.
It was a major.
One of the things, many of the items that are stored in there are furniture pieces, and I just talked to the owners of the furniture store. They want to put in their store a tribute room, so we might be able to take some of that furniture that's in storage and actually exhibit it in the community. We're also also, I've talked to, Frank Bessie, also about one of the empty storefronts, putting something in there as well, temporary, of course, but to make it look nice downtown. But it's also marketing and PR for the Fenton as well, and it helps us with things that are in storage can be out on exhibit for the public. So those are some of the future plans.
Yeah, so just have a list of it set up there.
Yeah.
There's some neat stuff up there.
Oh, right.
We're being very cautious about what we're taking in now.
That's the other
For,
thing,
for a
too.
long time, we had workers who just, anything that was donated, they took in. And, but now we're being a little more cautious as what we're accepting, because we know we have to store it, if we can't display it, so. It's just another way our board is trying to, make things work.
Yeah. And we will have a new curator coming on board in January who is highly qualified, very professional, which, I love our staff and the volunteers we had, but again, they didn't have training, so, that's another step forward as well.
Well, certainly one of the best jewels in our city.
Oh,
And,
absolutely.
I wish you would have asked for more money.
Well, okay, you apparently think money grows on trees.
You know, I have to say, I feel guilty asking for what I do ask for because,
I concur.
you know, I
It's
mean.
not that I don't disagree, but.
Yeah, no, it's a wonderful.
It is.
I know that we've come to help on many occasions in the past, even when I was involved, we leaned on the city for a lot of extra stuff that was paramount to keep it afloat, keep it going, so kudos for doing a great job and welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody else, any other questions? Okay, thank you very, very much.
Thank
If you wanna forward that just to the city clerk, she can send it to all of us too.
Okay,
Yeah, that'll work.
okay, fantastic. Okay,
Thank you.
very much.
Committee meetings and you got your emails.
Do you have one other budget? The, line 8050 for the Human Rights Commission,
Uh-huh.
can we get an accounting of what they've spent that money on in the last one?
We sure can, let's talk about it, in the regular meeting.
Okay.
Because I need to talk about, you know, the upcoming timeline for budgets and the hearing this week and everything else, so perfect time to bring it up,
Okay,
right?
if we didn't have library or
Yeah.
the senior center, just have that was on this.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.